the session on India, its topography and slope. Geography is a very interesting subject. Physical geography is a fascinating branch of geography. While studying the geography of a country, the first thing to be known is its physiographic conditions. The physiography of any region is related to the following major components. Firstly, the topography including slope, drainage and watersheds, soil types and fertility, climate and vegetation, geology and structure. All these components play a vital role in the geographic analysis. A slope is the rise or fall of the land surface. It is important for several reasons. For a farmer to irrigate a land, understanding of the slope of land is needed. For any construction project, slope is to be considered. Slope and topography describe the relief and shape of a land. Topography reflects the elevation of a land. Slope reflects the percent or degree of change in elevation over a certain distance. The topography of a region is represented by the elevation of land and its gradient. Slope refers to the topographic gradient of a land. Slope of a land controls the flow of surface water, nature of vegetation, human cultivation and animal growth. The slope of land is an important geospatial parameter for any geographic study. Slope refers to the elevation difference between 2 points of a unit distance. Slope is also referred to as gradient and is represented as percent slopes or degree slopes. Next, coming to the slope of land in India. Geographically, India is a vast country. It has many highly elevated mountain peaks, large alluvial plains and also the longest stretch of wide coastal regions. The slope of land in India is represented as elevation difference of a region per kilometer of distance on land. There are two kinds of slopes which we may encounter in geographic analysis. One is the land slope and the other one is the submarine slope. Submarine slope deals with the topographic conditions below the sea. In this lesson, our interest is to know about the land slopes. The topographic configuration of land in India is very much varied from one place to the other. Coming to the classification of land slopes. The topographic slopes of land in India are classified into the following 5 categories. First one, flatlands. Second, gentle slopelands. Third, moderately steep slopelands. Fourth, steep slopelands. And fifth, very steep slopelands. Escarpments and cliffs are beyond these categories, which may be nearly vertical to perfectly vertical in some places also. Coming to the coastal flat terrain. The first category of slope is denoted as a flat terrain. This is not strictly horizontal. The slope or elevation difference may be less than 10 meter per kilometer. These are vast regions where the gradient is less than that of 10 meter per kilometer in India. This category of land slope exists all along the coastal areas of India. They are called as coastal flatlands. All these lime green colored zones of this map denote these coastal flatlands. The general topography of coastal flatlands may have the following altitudinal ranges. Region up to 100 meter altitude above the mean sea level, region with an altitude of 100 meter to 500 meter above the mean sea level, region beyond 500 meter altitude above mean sea level, coming to the interior flat terrain. The elevation difference of interior flatlands may range from 10 to 20 meter per kilometer distance. Mostly, they exist in the interior parts of India adjacent to the coastal zone running from Cape Comorin of Tamil Nadu in the south to Narnaul of Haryana in the north. They are shown as yellow colored patches. The general topography of interior flatlands may have the following altitudinal ranges. Region up to 100 meters altitude above the mean sea level, region with an altitude of 100 meters to 500 meters above mean sea level, region beyond 500 meters altitude above mean sea level can clearly show these interior flatlands. Now coming to the gentle slope terrain. The gentle slope regions of India have an elevation difference of 20 to 80 meter per kilometer. This is distributed at three kinds of altitudinal ranges as up to 100 meters above mean sea level, from 100 to 500 meters above mean sea level, over 500 meters above mean sea level. Now coming to land with moderately steep slopes. This category of land in India has the elevated difference of 80 to 150 meter per kilometer distance. A very vast stretch of lands in India are belonging to this category. Such regions are all lying at an altitude of 500 meters and above zones from mean sea level. Next, coming to the land of steep slope is the next category of slope. The land of steep slope in India has an elevation difference of 150 to 300 meter per kilometer. And the final category of slope is the extreme end category, that is the land of very steep slopes. In India, there are regions with very steep slopes wherein the elevation difference may range from 300 to 600 meter per kilometer and also beyond 600 meter per kilometer. Most of the elevated mountains and hills of peninsular India and the northern mountain ranges possess such very steep slope terrains. Now coming to the study of land slopes needed in geography. A basic understanding of the topography of a region, elevation, altitudinal variations and a thorough understanding of the slopes of lands in India are needed for every geographers. Hence, the study of slope has been kept as the main objective of this lesson. Having a look at the objectives of studying this topic are to know about the slope of land in northern India, slope of land in central India, slope of land in western India, slope of land in eastern India and finally the slope of land in southern India. Now first coming to the slope configuration of northern India. Physiographically, the northern parts of India have very unique and heterogeneous topographic features. The notable features are Ladakh Plateau, Karakoram Ranges, Zaskar Range, Pir Panjal Range, Dhauladhar Range, Mussoorie Range, Bari Doab, Malwa Plains, Haryana Bhiwani Bagar and Shimla Hills. Because of these high mountains, plateaus and plains, the slope configurations are also varied from one area to the other. All the categories of slopes from interior flatland to moderately steep slope and to elevated steep slope regions exist in this part of the country. Majority of the areas are occupied with steep slope terrains and interior flatlands. The entire southern portion of the northern India are interior flatlands. The interior flatlands are distributed along the Indo-Gangetic plains in the southern parts. This is a vast region. It belongs to the Punjab plains, Ganga Yamuna Doab, Rohilkhand plains and Awadh plains. The region around Amritsar, Ganganagar, Bikaner, Fatehpur, Hisar, Patiala, Ludhiana, Julender, Karnal, Delhi, Aligarh, Ghaziabad, Meerut, Panipat, Muradabad, Yamunanagar, Saharanpur, Rampur, Bareilly, Shahjahanpur and Lakshmipur and Lakhimpur show a flat topographic gradient. These are belonging to Baridob, Malwa plains and Haryana Bhiwani Bagar physiographic regions. The interior flatlands are also existing around Srinagar in Kashmir, which have a general topographic altitude well above 500 meters from the mean sea level. There is also a small stretch of interior flatland along the periphery of Gangetic plains in the north. They are distributed around Hosairpur, Chandigarh and Ramnagar regions near Kashipur. The extreme northeast regions of Jammu and Kashmir state also have a gentle slope terrain. The moderately steep slope and steep slope regions are distributed in the form of continuous stretches. Most of them belong to the foothills of the Himalayan mountains of northern India, spread over the states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttaranchal. Major pockets could be seen around Garhwal, Tehri, Dehradun, Kathua and Panch Hill ranges. The very steep slope topography is observed over a very large region representing the tops of the Himalayan mountains. These are belonging to the Kashmir Himalayan, Punjab Himalayan and Kumaon Himalayan region. Gilgit, Ladakh, Doda, Uttarkashi and Chamoli hill ranges have very steep slopes. The hilly and mountainous regions of Jammu and Kashmir in the extreme north are devoid of interior flatlands. Similarly, the plains of Indo-Gangetic rivers and their tributaries in the south show a fully flat topographic gradient. Next is the slope configuration of central India. The central India has the following physiographic features, that is the Gomti plain, Purabia plain, Jashpur Pats, Ranchi plateau, Sonpur hills, Hazaribagh plateau and Rajmahal hills. All the categories of slopes from coastal flatland to interior flatland and to fully elevated steep slope topography exist in this part of the country. The coastal flatlands are distributed along the east coast in the form of patches and stretches. There are some stretches of coastal flatlands along the river courses which confluence with the Bay of Bengal around Srikakulam and Vijayanagaram. In addition, there is also a vast coastal flatland region around Bhubaneswar and Cuttack areas of Odisha. These are the deltaic regions of Mahanadi river. In addition to these coastal flatlands, there is also an interior flatland with the same kind of slope, that is less than 10 meters per kilometer, existing in regions which have an altitudinal range of 500 meter and above from the mean sea level. The entire Gangetic plains from Mathura in the west to Patna in the east have the flat topographic gradient only. They belong to the Ganga plains, Awadh plains, North Bihar plains and South Bihar plains. The interior flatlands are distributed along the central and western portions of this map. A majority of the land areas of central India have this slope. They are distributed around Nalgonda, Adilabad, Karimnagar, Warangal, Wardha, Gondia, Dharamgarh, Mahasamund, Jharsuguda, Rourkela, Purulia, Rewa, Satna, Hatta, Garhatka and Lalitpur. The gentle slope lands occupy a major part of this region. These land areas are distributed around Sikandarabad, Koraput, Betal, Chhindwara, Begamganj, Jampurnagar, Jashpunarnagar, Jumla and Hazaribagh areas. The moderately steep slope and steep slope regions are seen in the form of isolated patches. Most of them are representing the residual hill portions of the central India. Major pockets could be seen around Koraput and Bahut Konmal's region in the southwest, Chhindwara and Mandla hill regions in the middle, Siddhi, Raigarh and Sudargarh regions. The very steep slope gradients are distributed in the form of isolated patches representing the tops of hills and mountains. The Gangetic plains are devoid of gentle slopes, moderately steep slopes and very steep slopes. All these three categories of slopes are absent in the Gangetic plain regions of India. Similarly, the central plains of Mahanadi basin, encompassing a vast catchment zone around Bhilai, Raipur, Bilaspur and Raigarh areas up to Hirakud Dam show a flat topographic gradient. Such patches could also be seen along the Godavari river courses and the Narmada river courses far away from the coastline. Now next, coming to the slope configurations of Western India. This map shows the slope configuration of Western India. All the categories of slopes from flat coastal land to interior flat land and to elevated steep slope regions exist in this part of the country. The coastal flatlands are distributed along the Run of Kutch and Gujarat coastal regions. The region around Gandhinagar, Bhavnagar, Porbandar, Morvi and Run of Kutch have a very vast coastal flat land. In addition, there is also a vast coastal flatland around Gandhi Dham region. These are the deltaic regions of minor river courses. The interior flatlands could be seen around Rajkot, Bilkha, Gondal and Jamjodhpur regions, which have a topographic elevation of 100 to 500 meters above the mean sea level. The interior flatlands are also distributed along the central portions of this map around Baroda, that is Vadodara, Surat, Ujjain, Indore, Palanpur, Kota and Sikar regions. In the Western India, flatland topography with an altitudinal range of 100 meters to 500 meters above mean sea level is observed in the central portions. They are found in Kathiawar Peninsula, northwestern desert regions and in all other places as pockets and patches. Such gradients could be seen from Sholapur in the south to Ajmer in the north. The gentle slope terrains occupy a major part of this region. These are distributed around Kolhapur, Pune, Ahmednagar in the south and Udaipur, Khandwa and Karauli in the north. The moderately steep slope and steep slope regions are found in the form of isolated pockets and patches. Most of them are representing the residual hill portions of the Western India. Major pockets could be seen around Kolhapur, Pune, Ratlam and Bevar regions. The very steep slope regions are distributed in the form of a very few isolated patches representing the top of the hills and mountains. It could be seen that the plains of Godavari, Tapti, Narmada and Mahi river basin areas show a flat topographic gradient. Similar patches could also be seen along Banas, Sabarmati, Mahi and Chambal river courses and their floodplain regions. Next, coming to the slope configurations of eastern India. Eastern India is characterized by a set of significant physiographic features. They are the Great Himalayan Range, Purvanchal Range, Khasi, Garo, Jaintia Hills, Parail Range, East Manipur Hills, Mizo Hills, Mikir Hills, Mishmi Hills, Shillong Plateau, Meghalaya Plateau and Naga Hills. This part of the map shows the slope configuration of the eastern India. It covers the area of all northeastern states. All categories of slopes from flatland to moderately steep slope to elevated steep slopes exist in this part of the country. The interior flatlands are distributed along the Brahmaputra river courses. It could be seen all along the floodplains of the river. This gradient extends from Jalpaiguri and Guwahati in the west to Dibrugarh in the east. The region around Tezpur also has a flatland topography. The interior flatlands are also distributed around Silchar in the form of a small pocket. The next category of slope is the gentle slope. The gentle slope regions occupy a major part of the northeast. This kind of slope is observed in the landforms around Thimphu, Shillong, Impal, Agartala, Kohima, Bobdila, Diephu, Tura and Aizawl regions. Most of them are representing the residual hills of the northeastern states. The very steep slope regions are distributed in the form of isolated patches. Now next, coming to the slope configurations of southern India. The southern parts of India have very typical physiographic conditions. The notable features are the east coast, the west coast, the western and eastern Ghats, the Ooty hills, the Biligiri Rangana hills, the Tirumala hills, Annaimudi hills, Annai Malai hills, Chevroy hills, Javdi hills, Malnad hills, Palkonda range and Nallamala range. This is a part of the peninsular India. All the categories of slopes from flat coastal land to elevated steep slope regions exist in this part of the country. The coastal flatlands are distributed along the east coast and the west coast in the form of continuous stretches. The coastal flatland along the east coast in the peninsular India is very wide. The region around Tuticorin, Ramanathapuram, Pattukottai, Tanjavur, Chidambaram, Pondicherry, Kudalur, Tindivanam, Tambaram, Madras, that is Chennai, Gudur, Ongole and Machilipatnam have a very vast coastal flatland. The west coast has a narrow coastal flatland when compared to the east coast. There are some stretches of interior flatlands along the river courses which confluence with the Bay of Bengal around Pennar river. This region has a vast interior flatland. The interior flatlands are existing around Tenkasi, Tirunelveli, Dindigul, Pollachi, Tiruchirappalli, Dharapuram, Salem, Dharmapuri, Kolar, Tumkur, Kunigal, Anantapur, Guntkal, Bellari, Davangere, Haveri, Sidnur and Kurnool regions. These areas have an altitude of 500 meter and above with reference to mean sea level. The central regions shown in this map have a flat to gentle topographic gradient. The gentle slope terrains occupy a major part of this region. These land areas are distributed around Mysore, Bangalore, Hosur, Hassan, Chamrajnagar, Mandya, Gudiyattam, Kuppam, Kollegal, Arsikere, Sagar, Shimogga, Hubli, Sirsi, Dharwad, Belgaum, Gokak, Rayadurg, Kadiri, Tirumala and Tiruvannamalai regions. The moderately steep slope and steep slopes are observed in the form of isolated patches and pockets. Most of them are representing the residual hill landforms of the southern regions. They are distributed along the flanks of Western Ghats. They are found to be stretching within the Western Ghats from Thiruvananthapuram to Ooty and from Ooty to Dandeli. The very steep slope regions are distributed in the form of continuous patches representing the tops of the hills both in the Western Ghats and in the Eastern Ghats. All categories of slopes are present in this southern peninsular region. Now coming to the conclusion. Topography and slopes play a very important role in controlling the flow of water on the surface, storage of water, agriculture, irrigation facilities, transport route alignments, construction projects and other infrastructure developments. Topography and slopes are the real reflections of a country's physiographic conditions. All drainage systems are controlled by the topography and slope. The land slopes are geographically significant components for all kinds of surveying and land measurements. Thank you.